Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Hannah if you're new here, and in today's video I'm doing something I've never done before. I'm going to be talking about all the books I gave up on in 2023 so far. Giving up on books is called did not finish or DNFing, and I typically just don't talk about that. I am a mood reader, so sometimes I DNF books for stupid reasons, for mood reasons, after 10 pages, after 800 pages. There's really a lot of reasons why I give up on a book, and most of the time it's me, not the book. Today I'm going to be highlighting all of the books that I gave up on and why so far this year. The first book of the year, way back in January, I gave up on was Signal to Noise by Silvia Moreno Garcia. Now, I love this author, and I wasn't hating my time reading this book. I just read 80 pages of this and kind of lost interest and put it down and just never picked it back up. So this is a DNF for now, but hopefully I pick it back up soon because I would like to finish it. There was nothing wrong with it. It was just I was never in the mood to pick it up again, if that makes sense. Then we have The Lies of Locke Lamora. I gave up on this after 50 or so pages, and I was actually enjoying my read of this. It has nothing to do with the writing of this book and has everything to do with the author. I did some research about this author, and you can look it up for yourself. I don't really want to get into it during this video, but he just seems kind of like a despicable person for what he did to Alexandra Rowland, one of my favorite authors, and I choose to believe victims, and I don't want to support this man or even continue reading his books. So that is a personal preference. Please seek out additional information if you're interested, but this is an author I just choose not to support. On a different note, we have Finding Joy by Adriana Herrera. I loved A Caribbean Heiress in Paris by this author, but after 20% into this romance, I just wasn't gripped. I wasn't very interested in the plot or the characters in this, and I wasn't really interested in seeing where the romance went with this one, so I gave up. We have two books back to back by the same author. We have Temper by Nikki Drayden, as well as The Prey of the Gods. Now, I, again, loved previous work by this author. She wrote Escaping Exodus and that duology, and I'm obsessed with that series. And I tried to read this author's backlist, and these were just too strange for me. One had a lot of incest in it, and I was just not interested in continuing that one, and the other was just very odd and extremely violent, and I wasn't in a good place to read something that violent, and so I just decided these books were not for me and I'm gonna move on. I got about 15% of the way through Temper and 35% of the way through The Prey of Gods. It was just not for me. Next book I DNF'd was ACORNA, The Unicorn Girl by Anne McCaffrey, John Ennis, and Margaret Ball. I stopped at 30% of the way into this one. I was loving my time reading this, and this was a book I read as a child, and yikes, I probably shouldn't have. There are a lot of anti-Muslim and anti-hijabi sentiments in here that made me extremely uncomfortable, and big no-no for me. And another aspect of this, I was 30% of the way in, and ACORNA still hadn't gotten a perspective, even though she's the main character. So all of the men around her were controlling her life, speaking for her because she is an alien, and that also made me uncomfortable. So this was an easy DNF at 30%. And I do not recommend this one. My most infamous DNF is Queerly Beloved by Susan Dumond. This is a contemporary romance story, and it's queer, but I stopped reading after 14 pages because the writing was so bad, actually bad. There was so much info dumping and exposition in the first chapter that I could not stand it. So it's gotta go. Another DNF for now, I plan on picking this up in the future, is Legendborn. I read 60 pages of this, and even though the main character goes to college, she's only 16, so I thought this was going to be like a new adult or an adult story, and this is definitely young adult. And as I'm getting older, I'm just finding I'm reaching for young adult less and less and less, and I have to be in the mood to be in the head of a teenager, and that was just the case with this one. I started it and I was like, I can see where this is going, I can see the potential, and I'm enjoying my time reading it, but I just, at the time, didn't want to be in the head of a teenager. So I will pick this back up eventually. Ooh, this one's gnarly. Tread of Angels by Rebecca Roanhorse, which really stinks because Rebecca Roanhorse wrote Black Sun, and I absolutely adore Black Sun and Fevered Star by this author, but Tread of Angels, I read the first chapter and I was tentatively interested in continuing. It's a novella, it's a Western fantasy story, and my friend read it and told me not to continue and gave me kind of a play-by-play of what was to happen, and based on how this book ends, based on their summary, I was like, absolutely not. That is not something I want to read. So thank you for my friend for warning me. And I'm not going to say what it is and what happens without, you know, I don't want to spoil things for you, but it was just a book and a plot that I definitely wasn't going to be interested in. Another heavy hitter is A Day of Fallen Night by Samantha Shannon. I read 31% of this like 800-page book, and I have decided that Samantha Shannon is just not an author for me. I read Priory of the Orange Tree and I gave it 3 stars. I thought it was okay. So I was hoping that her follow-up to that book would be excellent, and it again was trending towards mediocre. If not, I was bored. I wasn't enjoying the characters, and I just couldn't connect to this world or these characters because of the narrative distance. The way that it's written, you just feel very distant from what the characters are doing and their emotions, so I wasn't feeling anything for them. So, again, not for me. I hope everyone loves it. It's just not an author for me. Next is like a series I've decided not to finish, and that's Michael J. Sullivan's The Legends of the First Empire series. So I DNF'd Age of Legends. I read the first 3 books in this 6-book series and decided not to continue. I was just feeling like I loved book 1 a lot. Book 2 was pretty good, and book 3 was just okay for me. So the quality in terms of my personal taste was going down. And I was also just really uncomfortable by some of the characterizations, specifically of the dwarves in the way that they were written. It was very uncomfortable for me, and I just decided not to continue. It just is not the series for me, and some of the characters that I was really enjoying do not make it all the way through those first 3 books. And so by the time the 3rd book ended, I was just not interested in the characters that remained. That makes sense. Next is Sister, Maiden, Monster. I read about 4 chapters of this, and this is a horror novel that surrounds a pandemic, and this talks about COVID, and that is just something I'm not ready to consume. I gave this a shot, but I just, 1, can't do the subject matter, and 2, wasn't really gripped by the writing of this. Just not for me. I'm not ready, personally. Then we have Forbidden Promises by Cynthia Williams, and I stopped at 17%, and this is literally, there's nothing wrong with this book. It's just, it's a case of it's me, not you situation. This is a romance novel, and I just wasn't feeling the vibes. I just wasn't feeling the dynamics of this relationship, which is like it's about the main character's sister's ex-husband and like them getting together, and I just wasn't interested in that. And this is very heavily inspired by soap opera drama, and soap opera level drama in my romance novels is just not my personal preference. So nothing wrong with this book, I just wasn't interested in this type of dynamic or level of drama. Then we have Our Share of Night. Yes, Our Share of Night by Mariana Enriquez. I was about 10% into this one, and this is like a 28-hour long horror novel. And you know, I love slow horror. I've said that previously, but this was slow. And not just slow, this was tending in a direction that I typically don't like, which is like supernatural, like black magic horror. And I could just tell that that's what was happening, and I'm not really interested in that, so I gave up on it. Frustratingly, I got 56% of the way through A Half-Built Garden by Ruth Anna Emrys before deciding to give up. This is a super, super queer normative science fiction novel about a first contact with aliens situation. And now the first 25% of this book was phenomenal, excellent, because it was that first contact part. But after that first 25%, the second 25% was very political and boring, to be honest. It didn't go in the direction that I was anticipating with that phenomenal start, and I just got bored and was kind of dreading picking this back up every time I put it down. So just decided to cut ties. This is just not my jam. The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. I was 15% into this one, and nothing wrong with this book. It's gonna be excellent, but I want to read it with my eyeballs and not my ears because the writing is so beautiful. I want to actually like experience it through my eyes on the page. I read another book by this author, The Night Circus, and I read that one physically and really enjoyed the reading experience. So I'm gonna try to tackle this one again at some point with my eyes. Then we have A Choir of Lies by Alexandra Rowland, which I was 60% of the way through. This one is pretty disappointing. This is the second book in the Tales of the Chance series. The first book I gave 4.5 out of 5 stars, and I absolutely loved that book. And this one was just really not doing it for me. The main character is the one writing this story, and he is given the written manuscript of the story to an editor, essentially, and the editor is inserting themselves into the text quite a bit and being kind of mean and imposing a lot of their judgment about the main character into their like footnotes and stuff. So that doesn't endear me to that editor or our main character very much. This also was very slow, and considering that this was supposed to be edited down, our main character is super long-winded in his descriptions of what's happening, and he's in his own head so much that I was surprised that this was supposedly edited by another person who could have really cut down on our main character's long-windedness. I just really wasn't vibing with this one. From like 10% on, I wanted to DNF, tried to push through, and I just had to give up at 60%. I was just bored and sad about it. And finally, my most recent DNF is After Hours on Milagro Street by Angelina M. Lopez. This is a romance novel, and I DNF'd this after the first chapter. I couldn't stand the main character. She was the type of person who's like, it's my way or the highway, which in general, I don't mind characters that are stubborn or really like set in their ways, or, you know, have really strong opinions about things, but you kind of have to endear me to the character first, and she just came right in swinging with this bad attitude, which didn't sit with me well. And then there was the plot of the first chapter is kind of a sexual coercion scene, which I was very uncomfortable with. She essentially comes across the other main character, he's like a tenant in the building, and she's like she seduces him for a quickie, and he doesn't really want to. He's like, oh, can I take you out to dinner first? Can I have your number? And she's like, no, I just want to screw you and leave. And he's like, kind of, I don't know, coerced into it a little bit. Like I don't think it was like a sexual assault situation, because he does eventually agree, but it's not great when a character is saying, no, I don't want to do this, and then they change their mind, because is that really enthusiastic consent? I don't think so. If you have to convince someone to be with you in that way, I don't think it's consent. And that's just my opinion. So I DNF'd this book after the first chapter. Oh boy, hopefully this was an amusing video for you, just to get a little bit more insight into my reading tastes and what my reading year has been like so far. Do you give up on books? I give up on books clearly all the time, and for varied reasons. But I would love to know if you have read any of the books that I've given up on. Should I give any of these a second chance? Let me know in the comments down below. Maybe I'll try doing a video about books I previously gave up on but decided to go back to. Let me know what you think about that in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in another video of mine very soon. Bye.